send my joy. I send my joy over the mountain. I send my joy over the sea. I send my joy into the heavens, and it returns to me. Let's send love again. I send my love over the mountain. Welcome to 2015.
Good morning. I invite you now to come away into the moment, come away inside each person, inside ourselves, into the eternal now. Allowing everything that happened up until now to fade into a beautiful white mist. Join me as I open to the one great life, that one power that is present everywhere, that is so potent right now in this room, potent everywhere. Awaiting to make itself known, awaiting our attention. This life is pure joy, freedom, love that never fails, infinite possibility. And I know that I am a direct outflowing of this perfect life, lacking nothing, as is true for every single person, because all is available in God, as God, through God, and in each person, without end. And so I speak my word this morning for that exquisite availability, that open mind, hearts opening right now to receive, to experience this power in a brand new way as never before, to experience the infinite possibility within that is supported by all the universe, that sacred response, possibility. And I give thanks for newness, for we are made new by the transformation of our minds. And so giving thanks for this availability, for this openness. I give thanks, but there is but to settle back and luxuriate in the presence as we receive that wisdom from Reverend Karyl and from our entertainers, from our music, our poets. So I give thanks. I give thanks. And so it is. Amen. And I would like to welcome our guest artist today, Patrick Woodworth, who is a poet and loves to inhabit his poetry and invites you to do the same with his backup man, our own unrepeatable Bodhi. Thank you.
So Mary Oliver says, The path to heaven doesn't lie down in flat miles. It's in the imagination with which we perceive this world and the gestures with which we honor it. So here are some imaginations. This first poem is by David Wagoner. It's called Lost, and it's for all of us who have ever felt lost. Stand still. The trees ahead and the bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here. And you must treat it as a powerful stranger. You must ask permission to know it and to be known. The forest breathes. Listen. It answers, I have made this place around you. If you leave, you can come back saying, here. No two branches are the same to Wren. No two trees are the same to Raven. If what a tree or a bush does is lost on you, then you are truly lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. The next poem is about a different kind of lostness. It's called The Bear. It's by Mary Oliver. It's not my track, I say, seeing the ball of the foot and the wide heel and the naily untrimmed toes. This is not my track. And this is an extremely large foot. I wonder how large a body must be to make such a track. I begin making bad jokes. I have read probably 100 narratives in which someone saw exactly what I am seeing. Various things happen next. A fairly long list. I'm not going to go into it. But not one of them told what happened next, I mean before whatever happens. How the distances light up. How the clouds are the most lovely shapes you have ever seen. How the wildflowers at your feet begin distilling a fragrance different than and sweeter than any you have stood upon before. How every leaf on the whole mountain is a flutter. So even close to what could be your death, something amazing might happen. And this next poem, and the last I'll do in this first set, is a poem of mine, which is also about discovering where you actually are. It's called Humans Are Slow Fires. Humans are slow fires. Sometimes we forget we are burning and wear our faces like wood. Sometimes our eyes are all smoke and no glow. Or they water from the billowing worlds blowing our way. Or we make ashes of ourselves and sift for a form. Better to be at the bottom of the wick, knowing you're on fire somewhere. When the time comes, melt. Better to be at the bottom of the wick, knowing you're on fire somewhere. When the time comes, melt.
What a wonderful, wonderful way to start the new year. Thank you so much, Patrick. Well, Happy New Year. How fun is this? So, the theme for the year is no surprise because it's all around the room and it's also on your bulletin. So, your joyous year is the theme for this year. That's it. So I'm going to kind of get us into that today. But first I would like to draw your attention to Janet's beautiful, beautiful altar. And so she's written some notes about it which add to it. I mean, it's so beautiful just on its own, but I will read what she wrote, and this is beautiful too. The 2 columns and crystal rope represent the portal of possibility as we enter into a new year. Similar to the Torii Gate in Japan, which designates the entrance to holy ground. The 4-chambered square represents each season of the year, sprinkled with jewels. The heart represents the holy moment of now and our sacred connection with the gifts of spirit, joy, health, prosperity, and more, all accessed with love. So that is just fabulous. And so we are building on last year, and if you all would come 10 minutes early, all of the slides from what we believe are interspersed with wonderful photos of the solstice and other informational slides, and that's especially great if you bring a guest, because right up here, 10 minutes before the service, our entire philosophy opens up to them in those beautiful, beautiful slides with the what we believe statements on them. So building on last year, which was so filled with wonderful spiritual practice, it got very, very happy towards the end of the year. Did y'all feel that? We were all very joyful. No one was being offended. There weren't any mistakes. Nobody was shooting themselves in the foot. As good as spiritual community gets, that's what we had. And so I wanted to increase that. I wanted to just build on what we had last year and bring it forth into this new year. And then on a trip I had to New York, I found this book in the village. It's called The Happiness Project. And I was drawn to it, and I just looked through it, and lo and behold, it is divided into 12 chapters with the names of the months, actually. So this is going to be our source book for this year, and we have already planned in-home book groups like we had last year, but they're going to be based on this book and the character of the well, you make the character of the groups, and so I want to encourage people who hosted last year, if you want to keep up your group, that is perfect, 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 and the sign up for the hosts is on the back table. So I wanted to just read to you from the introduction to this book so that we can all be on the same page about what this is about. I'd always vaguely expected to outgrow my limitations. One day, I'd stop twisting my hair and wearing running shoes all the time and eating exactly the same food every day. I'd remember my friends' birthdays. I'd learn Photoshop. I wouldn't let my daughter watch TV during breakfast. I'd read Shakespeare. I'd spend more time laughing and having fun. I'd be more polite. I'd visit museums more often. I wouldn't be scared to drive. This is an author who lives in New York City. One April day, on a morning just like every other morning, I had a sudden realization. I was in danger of wasting my life. Galen? We had a very short conversation at the beginning when she was coming in today saying, 2014, it was gone in a blink. I don't want to wake up and be 84. So I was in danger of wasting my life. As I stared out the rain-spattered window of a city bus, I saw that the years were slipping by. What do I want from life anyway, I asked myself. Well, I want to be happy. But I had never thought about what made me happy or how I might be happier. I had much to be happy about. I was married to Jamie, the tall, dark, and handsome love of my life. We had 2 delightful young daughters, 7-year-old Eliza and 1-year-old Eleanor. I was a writer. After having started out as a lawyer, I was living in my favorite city, New York. I had close relationships with parents, sister, and in-laws. I had friends. I had my health. I didn't have to color my hair. But too often, I sniped at my husband or the cable guy. I felt dejected after even a minor professional setback. I drifted out of touch with old friends. I lost my temper easily. I suffered bouts of melancholy, insincerity, listlessness, and free-floating guilt. So she's on this bus, and she sees a woman trying to cross the street with a latte and a stroller and carrying a bunch of things, and she goes, that is me, just kind of stumbling through life. And then she remembered the words of Colette, the writer Colette, had haunted me for years. What a wonderful life I've had. I only wished I realized it sooner. I didn't want to look back at the end of my life or after some great catastrophe and think how happy I used to be then if I'd only realized it. So she does a lot more interior funny writing, and then she says, I wasn't as happy as I could be, and my life wasn't going to change unless I made it change. So as I was standing in the bookstore in the village and I read this, I thought, well, I want to do this year, so I'm making you all do this year. So we will follow this year of getting happier, whatever your level of happiness is right now, if you lean into this. And if you don't want to go with this theme of happiness, well, I'm going to talk about relationships and work and health and prosperity and all the things that we apply our philosophy to. All of that is going to still be a part of this. But if you want to join me, January is about vitality. That's the theme, and I'll just read one paragraph of January. And I had a conversation with Arthur before the service about this first line. Like 44% of Americans, I make New Year's resolutions and usually don't keep them for long. How many times had I resolved to exercise more, eat better, and keep up with my email inbox? This year, though, I was making my resolutions in the context of my happiness project, and I hoped that would mean I'd do a better job of keeping them. To launch the new year and my happiness project, I decided to focus on boosting my energy. More vitality, I hoped, would make it easier to stick to all my happiness project resolutions in future months. And so each of these chapters has some very specific action steps. which I think sometimes in science of mind, we tend to stay in our mind. And it's wonderful to know in mind truth. But you know, it was our founder who said, treat and move your feet. And so we have very specific move your feet things, which I'm telling you I'm already a little bit ahead of you on. So in January, it is go to sleep earlier, exercise better, toss, restore, and organize, tackle a nagging task, and act more energetic. So these are the kinds of things that you might, if you choose, talk about in your book group. But the theme for this month is up here already. Energy is the activity of God, because what I want to do is take these very specific to-dos, and this book that at least at first doesn't have a lot of God in it, but we'll put the God in because God is everywhere. And so the principle, the spiritual principle that we're working with this month is energy is the activity of God. And so when you look out at the universe, I mean, my God, you see energy everywhere. You see, in all of the workings of the planets and the stars and the star nurseries and everything, it's energy, 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 and it's unlimited. I mean, to think about on this planet, if we would run out of energy, it's ridiculous. But I won't get into political topics, but I absolutely believe that there is no limit to the activity of God, which is energy. And even if you look at the scientific definition of energy, which I think is to do work, then the activity of creation, which is that's what God's all about, is creating in my life and in your life the consciousness that we ascribe to, then everything is all about energy. So energy is the activity of God, and it also means, of course, that felt state in us of how vital we feel. How much can we get done? How long can we walk? How light is our step? And so we have a goal for every month. And the goal for this month, should you choose to accept it, is boost our energy. So if anybody, is this like okay? Okay, good. I'm sure there'll be something that you like in this very day if you haven't come to it already. So, because, I want to be sensitive to folks who think of another divine quality first, who think, joy is nice, but, peace is more important. So, I want to suggest to us that the divine qualities that we name off all the time, love, peace, joy, beauty, harmony, light, creativity, and more, any one of those divine qualities can be the container for every other one. And peace really is a very easy one to start with. So if we're peaceful, remember a time, if it's not right now, if we're peaceful, we are automatically loving. We are receptive, we are generous. If we are peaceful, we are really looking for and finding the beauty in life and the beauty in others. If we are peaceful, we are content with our level of abundance. It feels abundant. We feel just fine about it. And we feel just fine about our level of health if we are in that peaceful state. So in that instance, peace becomes the most inclusive quality that we look at. And actually trying out any divine quality and putting all the rest of them in there is a wonderful contemplative spiritual practice. But the title for the talk today is, Can Joy Be Your Most Inclusive Divine Quality? So we're going to see about that, okay? We're going to see if we can lump peace and love and tranquility and creativity into joy. So, as I was thinking about this, I had some questions. And actually, as I was putting this out to the core council, they had some questions too. And in fact, they said, the title of this book is The Happiness Project, and they go, well, can we have joy be the quality, not happiness, you know? Happiness is, I don't know what, lightweight. But I thought about this, and the first question that came to me was this: isn't emphasizing joy somewhat superficial? So I'm going to take you to kind of a not so pleasant moment in my past, far past, thank God. So when I was young, like in my 20s, I was very outgoing, like I am now. I was pretty bubbly, and in fact, sometimes I shrieked, and sometimes I went over the top, if you can believe that. But my very good friend sat me down once and said, sometimes you come off as being kind of shallow and frivolous. And so I really thought about that. And I thought, if you're just happy, people might think you don't think deeply, that you don't have a depth of soul. Is that the way to, well, thank goodness it didn't ruin me. I don't think. I have thought about that over the years, and it certainly did come up when I was creating this talk and thinking, is joy a superficial divine quality? Should we go to a more serious one? But I was fine with that. But then, just to make sure I was fine with that, something came up on Facebook. And so, isn't that interesting? Facebook is not my go-to source. So I connected with a man from, he's married, from, I connected with a man that I had gone to high school with, and I literally had not, we hadn't had any contact since high school, but I found him on Facebook. And so he didn't recognize my picture at first, which that was even more concerning, but finally he said, oh, Karyl, well, and then I was Karyl Jones in high school, so he said, oh, Karyl Jones. Then he says, this is what he wrote: the one adjective I would choose from my recollections of you in high school would be cheerful, and you still are. And I thought, really? Cheerful? You know, that's like nice. I mean, not mysterious or adventuresome, or no, cheerful. But you know, I had to say, okay, that's fine with me, because right after that I remembered this wonderful line from the Gospels when Jesus said, I came that you might have life and have it abundantly, that your joy might be full. So right there I thought, okay, I can be shrieking and cheerful and joyful, and I am going to be living in God then. And so what I want for myself is more than the shrieking joy. I want this year deep, complex, multidimensional, soul-satisfying, unshakable well-being that is the joy that fills my heart and overflows to everyone I meet. That is what I want for me. And that is what I want for you. And so in answer to the question, is joy superficial? The answer is no. It is. It is the greatest way to appreciate the gift of life. So there you have it. But I didn't stop there. Okay, next question for me was, isn't seeking joy somewhat selfish when there is suffering all around us? Well, see, you're smarter than me. So, restated a little bit more bluntly, that question would be, why should I be happy when others are miserable? Well, what good is it if we're all miserable? Or, why should we be adventurous and creative when others are bored? Well, why everybody be bored? And then I was drawn to the Marianne Williamson statement, which is so powerful. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. And so our not being joy-filled does not serve anybody. So the greatest statement that I can think of about joy in the midst of suffering comes from Anne Frank. And she writes, "The best remedy for those who are afraid, lonely, or unhappy is to go outside, somewhere where they can be quiet, alone with the heavens, nature, and God, because only then does one feel that all is as it should be and that God wishes to see people happy amidst the simple beauty of nature. As long as this exists, and it certainly always will, I know that then there will always be comfort for every sorrow, whatever the circumstances may be. And I firmly believe that nature brings solace in all troubles." And so I imagine that there was a time when she could see nature only out of an attic window. And this was still her credo. And so, isn't seeking joy somewhat selfish? No. Being a beacon of joy in the midst of all circumstances to the contrary is a gift to all. And so that is deeply, deeply true. That, and when you go to a practitioner, and the practitioner listens to the story that is sad, there is a moment of empathy, a moment of sympathy, perhaps even, and then right into what would you love? What would you like instead? What would bring you joy? And that's our work. So I still had one more, and that is, but I feel like putting my consciousness toward healing my issues is a better use of the law. It was our founder who said, turn away from the condition. So I want to really make a distinction between turning away from the condition in denial and turning away from the condition in creativity. Because if we have some thing in our life that is wrong, it is bad, it is harmful, it is hurtful, we don't say, oh, it's okay, never mind. That's denial. But in turning away from the condition, we don't give it any more power. And instead we say, this that is a fact in my life is minimized as I turn towards the healed state, and then we enumerate, describe, meditate on, envision the healed state. Peace where there is conflict, love where there is hatred. That wonderful prayer from St. Francis that has left me, but you know what I mean. In classes, which I encourage, we're going to talk about them in announcements. In classes, there is always the opportunity to look back in our life for a mental cause, for whatever negative thing is going on in our life. There's an opportunity for that. But equally as important, and you don't have to do that, that's the thing. Some people like to, because once again, this is called the science of mind, and we like to dig around in our mind. You don't have to do that. It's effective with the help and training of our practitioners, but looking at what it is that we would love instead is, and keeping focused on that which we want to create, is very, very powerful. And so, from the words of Henry David Thoreau, if one advances confidently in the direction of their dream, endeavoring to live the life they are imagining, that's the action part, treat and move your feet, live the life they are imagining, one passes an invisible boundary. All sorts of things begin to occur that never otherwise would have occurred. One begins to meet with a success unexpected in common hours. So, we can put our mind on our issues, but nurturing the awareness of joy heals everything. And so, what I would like us to do today is to just maybe think in our mind of something that we would like to work on this year, and put it out there as an intention. Maybe keep a little journal, or maybe write a note to yourself. I love to write notes to myself in my books. So as you pick up your book, The Happiness Project today, which you can do in a book group, you can do in your family, you can do by yourself. You can do with your partner, you can do with your child. Write a little bit about what's going on right now and what you would like to have be better in your life, what would make you happy. Because to summarize the message today, this is to be joyful, is to appreciate the gift of life, to be a beacon of well-being for others, and to include everything in our awareness of good. And I know that I'm going to refer back to these as the year goes on and add to them. But this is what we are looking to accomplish, at least on the very first Sunday of your joyous year. So one other thing came to me on Facebook this week, and that is Elizabeth Gilbert. Now you can't really see this so well, but this is the author of Eat, Pray, Love, and she is holding a jar full of little slips of paper. And this came with a letter from Elizabeth Gilbert to all of us. Dear ones, see, she knows us. And she wrote this on December 31st. Here it is, the end of the year, and I thought it might be a good time to reintroduce you to the concept of the happiness jar. Here's me with mine. What is a happiness jar? It is the simplest thing in the world. You get yourself a jar, or a box, or a vessel of any kind, and every day, at the end of the day, you grab a slip of paper and write down on it the happiest moment of the day. Even on lousy days you do this, because even on lousy days, there is one best moment, or at least one least worst moment. You stick that little piece of paper in the jar. Over the years, you have a record of your happiness. On bad days, I will thrust my fist in that jar and go fishing, pulling up a handful of great moments that I would have utterly forgotten had I not documented them. I've been doing this practice for years, and I love it. If my house ever caught on fire, this would be the one material object I would grab before I ran out the door. Because what's inside this jar? That's where it's at, the whole point of this life. Over the years, my happiness jar has taught me much. What continually amazes me is what ends up on the slip of paper every day. Not awesome events, not huge achievements, usually just a small and tiny thing, a moment of awareness, that moment when you step outside and between the house and the car, you get hit on the top of the head with a beam of sunlight and suddenly feel awash with gratitude for simply being alive, and you think, yes, this is it. It's usually something that small and something that grand. I know that many of you have started this practice too, and I love seeing the pictures of your jars and hearing how you have adapted this to your own lives. It's kind of like accompaniment. I love the woman who put one in the middle of her dining room table, and she had her and her kids each put an entry in and there every day. What a cool family practice. And I love the woman who wrote to me last week saying that she had had the hardest year of her life, but she kept her happiness jar practice going the whole time. And today, on the last day of the year, she's going to pull out each piece of paper in the jar to remind her that even now, even in hard times, there was always one good moment a day. So if anyone wants to begin this practice tomorrow, a new year is always a great place to start. Sending love and, of course, wishing you all an abundance of happy moments in 2015. Onward. So, we have a new feature this year. Last year we had the takeaway where it was kind of a compilation of, in a very simplistic statement of what you could tell your friends about what happened in church that day. That was last year. Today, at the end of the talk, we have a segment called Going Deeper. And this Going Deeper part is really nothing that I'm going to say, probably, because the philosophy is very simple. It is, however, what you will do with the teaching, should you choose to. And I will, I hope, suggest a deeper way to use the message of the morning. So today, for the Going Deeper part, I would like to read to you a piece of the Isaiah book, chapter 58, verse 11. The Lord will guide you always. He will satisfy your needs in a sun-scorched land and will strengthen your frame. You will be like a well-watered garden, like a spring whose waters never fail. So this feeling of being the spring is the going deeper. And the going deeper statement is, find the spring whose waters never fail at the center of your being. And I'm not going to tell you how to do that. That is the going deeper part. We will, however, have a little experience of this in the inner work. So, welcome to 2015, your joyous year. I'm so excited for all of us. Let me invite you within right now. To that place of the spring whose waters never fail. In fact, how perfect it is that the sign for joy is that little bubbling motion that we make with our hands right in front of our heart. That is the spring that never runs dry. And so as we picture our heart just like a fountain of joy that kind of rises up through us and pours down over us, rises up right from the center of our being, out the top of our head, and pours down joy on everything that we are close to and upon us. Bring to mind, if you would, something in your life that is already joy-filled, someone that you love, some way of being that you treasure, something that you're so grateful for. It makes you so happy. And imagine that spring of living water coming up through your body and pouring down over yourself and over this situation in your life that is so joyful already. It's like joy meets joy. So beautiful, radiant, sparkling. And with that same feeling, bring to mind something in your life that is troubling. And let it sit next to you. Let it just sit next to you within the range of that cascading water. And once again, let that stream of living water come up through your heart. It never ends. It never ends. It's just flowing all the time, whether we're aware of it or not. It flows up and out and over your face and the back of your neck and over your shoulders and over your body and down over that thing that doesn't feel so good. And all of a sudden, it is encompassed in the joy of life. What a miracle. We don't need to ask why. We just include it. This is our practice for today, that our joy may be full. Blessed be.